Hey, and thank you so much for joining me on my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Dr. Nikki Venera-Brenner. We're here to get to know each other. I'm going to share some information about myself, personally, professionally. I'm here to share information about mental health, to spread awareness. I want to provide as much information and education as possible. This is by no means therapy. This is by no means a replacement for therapy. I want to make sure that you are equipped with as much information as possible. So then when you go off and you decide to go to therapy, you know the difference between an incompetent therapist, an egocentric clinician, the ones that have a knowledge gap versus the clinicians that actually know what they're doing. I want clinicians who are able to provide helpful information, devise a treatment plan that will help you get from point A to point B. It's so important that you know what your treatment looks like, what your clinician is capable of, and build that foundation. I want to spread as much awareness and provide as much education as possible so this way you can make informed decisions. In this Get to Know Me video, I will answer questions about me. And if there's anything else that you want to know, then comment below and I'll do another video. And remember, if you like my content, definitely click like, share, and comment to spread as much awareness as possible. Without further ado, I'll get into a little bit about myself. Who are you behind the credentials? What does a typical day in your life look like? I laugh because my day is really busy. I'm a mom of 2 and I'm currently pregnant with my 3rd. My lovely husband helps to support me with the kids, with our business, and a typical day usually looks like me waking up in and around 5 a.m. If I'm feeling really sick because of pregnancy, which typically happens, my pregnancies aren't really smooth. If I'm feeling like crap, I'm going to sleep in a little bit more. Assuming it's a typical day, I'll wake up at 5 a.m. I like to just zone out, have my time, which is about an hour or so. And then after that, I like to get ready. I have my agenda, I have my tasks that I have to do, filming, innovating and creating programs, developing trainings, talking to various different team members. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I have it planned out. What I do is I pick out 3 to 5 essential things that I have to do that's going to drive my business forward, that's going to drive me personally forward. I want to make sure that I'm doing these 3 to 5 very pivotal things. I try to be very intentional with my day. If I'm feeling very unwell, then I take care of myself. I focus on my self-care. Depending on what I can and cannot do, I might work from my bed. I typically work a lot. I work during the day. I work probably up until 5 o'clock on most days. And then after that, I have dinner with my kids, my husband, and we'll spend a little quality time together. My mission in life is to help as many people as possible who are struggling with their mental health. I want to be here for people, the curious people, the ones who ask questions, the one who have been tossed around like a rag doll in the system. I want to be here for you. It's been my mission ever since I was 20 and I stepped into my first psychology class, and it continues to be my mission. This is why I'm so adamant about being on social media and connecting with all of you, because I'm getting a little bit emotional about it, but this is really my passion. I help individuals go from the point of being so dysregulated to then being regulated. Build insight into the unconscious driving factors is so unbelievably vital, because that's where the symptoms come from. It doesn't come from what one is experiencing within the present moment. Yeah, that might have something to do with it, a job loss, a breakup, course, but that's not the entire story. There's so many more components. We need to get to these unconscious factors in order to truly understand what treatment looks like and what it means for someone to actually come out the other side. It is so beautiful to see that. That's true beauty in my eyes. For someone to grow so much, to go through the hardship, to lift that mental weight by processing that pain that could have happened 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, to strengthen one's psyche. It's so beautiful. The more in which we work on ourselves and we help other people, we can certainly change the world one step at a time. So my day-to-day focuses on you. It focuses on what I can do for you. It focuses on how I can help you. In my business, the Mind People, what programs, what services, what products can I provide that will enhance the treatment or enhance one's self-help ability. All of this is so important to me. Question number 2. What was the exact moment or experience that made you decide to enter the mental health field? 2 experiences. One I just spoke about briefly, which was I walked into my very first psychology class when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Toronto. I just picked a bunch of classes and I thought, okay, maybe I have an interest in this. As soon as I sat down and I was listening to all the materials and what we were going to learn and everything that we were going to read, I was so interested in human behavior, why people do the things that they do, especially why I do the things that I do. Another reason why I grew up always being the go-to person that people wanted to talk to. I'm very empathetic and I can pick up on a lot of information that people don't necessarily know that they're projecting. I would notice right away when someone would be really upset, or sad, or scared, and I would do something about that. They felt better. And in turn, I felt better. I wanted to learn a lot about myself. And I especially wanted to learn about the part of me, the part of my psyche that didn't like myself very much. There was a point in time where a big part of my psyche was just hating on me. I felt like I couldn't do things. I felt like people were constantly judging me. I felt like I always came second or third in other people's eyes. So, long story short, is that I got into the field because one, psychology is very interesting and I wanted to take it as far as possible. I ended up getting a master's degree and a doctorate. And then I also did it for personal reasons because I was struggling and I wanted to figure out more about me. I believe every good therapist needs a good therapist. I believe every person needs a therapist because life can be hard and sometimes we don't know how to navigate life. So you want to be able to have a circle of care of people who can work with you and personalize your treatment. You definitely don't want someone who is incompetent. So that's why I got into the field and why I continue to stay into the field, because not only am I so passionate about helping other people, but I'm also passionate about training future clinicians. Question 3. Why is the focus on mental health my specific mission? Personally, it's my mission because I want nothing more than to associate with people who are kind of high on life, people who are happy. I believe that there is a difference between living and existing. Existing is being on autopilot. You just go through life. It's very routine. You don't have to think about it. And then you just do it all over again. But living, that means that you are doing something in line with your genuine sense of self and that you are reaching and working towards your greatest potential. So the gap between your ideal self and your actual self is pretty small. But if you're on autopilot and you're just existing, then there's going to be gaps between the ideal self and the actual self. And that's going to be a huge problem. I like to focus on what I can do in the here and now, in the present, what it means for me to be alive. It is so important that you are here too. I want to help as many people as possible because when I go through my day, I feel really good. I feel grateful. Not to say that there aren't times in which I'm not stressed out, that I'm not angry, because I've done years of my own therapy, years of my own psychoanalysis, and I was able to pinpoint numerous pain points. I'm able to reflect and process that in the moment as best as I can. I want this for other people as well. Maybe some people say I have rose-colored glasses, but I have a tremendous amount of hope for humanity that fundamentally we are empathic individuals and we care about other people. So why don't we do the best that we can for other people? It might not always be a great situation. There might be conflicts, but can we fight in a healthy and respectful manner? Are there ways in which we can grow from an argument? What's the difference between arguing at someone and advocating for yourself? What can we do to promote our growth? This is my mission. This is why I'm here. So you're informed, you're knowledgeable, and then you can go off and make very strong, solid decisions that promote your growth. So let's grow together. Question 4. If you weren't doing this, what career do you think you'd have? When I was very young, what blew my mind was that TV wasn't real. So when I used to watch TV, I just thought there were cameras in people's houses. We were just watching people do their day-to-day thing. And then when I grew up, I was maybe 6 or 7 or so, and I started to actually understand abstractly what actors and acting and pretend actually meant. I was very interested in acting. I was very interested in what it means to become a different person. What does it mean to be this person in this family? What does it mean to be this person in this dynamic? I was just so fascinated to create this character out of nothing, like Miranda Priestley or Moira Rose. It's just so incredible. Where do these characters come from? I thought it was so interesting. So I wanted to do as much as I can. I've exposed myself to various different theater opportunities growing up. If my school was putting on a play, then I would want to be part of that play. My high school had an improv team, so I was part of that improv team. And I learned so much. I didn't go through any formal training until my first year university, where I started getting training at Second City, downtown Toronto, which was really cool. I've actually learned a lot of skill that helps me as a therapist now, because especially with improv, it teaches you to be quick on your feet. And what's interesting too is with theater, it's about having this level of confidence as well. So I would bring this into session. I would bring this into my professional training, and I would use these aspects. So then this way, if a patient is free associating and going through their thought process, then I'm able to listen and to hear what they're saying. These skills have really helped me, but I wanted nothing more than to be an actress. I wanted nothing more to work in New York and LA and travel the world. So who knows? I definitely still hold that dream. I have it on my bucket list to be in a film, and I want to be a principal actor in a film that will hopefully go to the Oscars. That's always a wish. Who knows what that might look like. If it was in psychology, then I would definitely get into acting. Question 5. What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you? Some people know this, some people don't, but I love rock music. I like classic rock. I like the lighter versions of rock, but I also like my hardcore metal. I love it. I love Disturbed, System of a Down. I used to listen to Disturbed and System throughout university and grad school, and I continue to really appreciate this music. It's such a release. It's actually very relaxing. But if I put any of this music on with my husband, aside from System of a Down, he will not like it. He will not listen to Disturbed. He won't listen to pretty much anything that I put on. So we compromise and listen to the Bare Naked Ladies. A lot of people think because I'm very bubbly, I'm very happy, more often than not, that I listen to music that associates with bubbliness. But no, I don't. I like Lady Gaga. That is a guilty pleasure. All right, so these questions are regarding my expertise in the field of psychology. Question 6. What do all of those letters after your name actually mean? All of these fancy letters basically says that I went to school for a long ass time. Okay, so my full name with my credentials is Dr. Nikki Venera Brenner. So I have MSc, PsyD, and RP. I didn't add my undergraduate credentials or my diploma from McMaster University, but I do have an honors bachelor degree of arts, and that's from the University of Toronto. I studied philosophy and psychology. At McMaster University, I went on to study addiction. I got an addiction care worker diploma. And then after that, I went to the University of Liverpool. And that's where I got a Master's of Science degree in mental health psychology. Following my master's degree, I got a doctorate in psychology, and I focused predominantly on clinical psychology. RP is my license. I'm a registered psychotherapist, and I am licensed in Ontario. Number 7, what is the actual difference between a psychotherapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist? I love this question because it can be so confusing. A psychotherapist is someone who specializes in therapy. In Ontario, so I'm just going to speak about what this looks like in Ontario. A psychotherapist specializes in therapy. This is not someone that can diagnose. A psychologist, which is different from a psychiatrist, is someone who focuses on diagnosing, but more importantly, focuses on testing. So if you're someone that is looking for a diagnosis because you need medication, you're looking for a psychiatrist. A psychologist is a person that you go to because you need to get a certain psychological assessment done. So as an example, my 5-year-old was recently diagnosed with ADHD hyperactive type. What made sense for us was to see a psychologist who can complete a psychological educational assessment in order to decipher if my son had an issue or didn't have an issue. The psychologist was really helpful in providing that diagnostic information, insight, developing that report. So then this way I can have a good understanding of my son as a whole person. The psychiatrist is medically trained. So this is someone who has gone to med school, someone who has a lot more training and a lot more knowledge in mental health than your general practitioner. So if you are really struggling with your mental health and you are feeling very dysregulated, which means your emotions are all over the place, it's difficult for you to function, then it might be in your best interest to see a psychiatrist. You can have a medication-specific plan. In addition to therapy, question 8. How do you stay up to date with new research in a such fast-paced, evolving field? Okay, so this is a very easy question to answer. It's not really that fast-paced. If you have an understanding of research within the past 5 years, then you're pretty good. So there might be a new treatment or a variation or modification to, let's say, those who struggle with generalized anxiety disorder. So it's important that I do receive these links to the literature, like to review them, and I stay current that way. I also listen to my students who are going through grad school. They're always teaching me new things. I learn from all over the place, and it is very inspiring. I love how the research is growing, especially in the psychoanalytic field. This is an area that I specialize in. I'm not saying this is the only treatment that a therapist should use, but what I'm saying is when a trauma happens, the core personality changes. And this is where we get symptoms of mental illness manifesting, is because that trauma, and especially the preceding years after that, if that trauma isn't dealt with, then this individual becomes a very emotional individual, very overwhelmed, difficulty with interpersonal relationships. This might be you. You need stabilization if you're not able to function, if you're not able to think, if it's hard for you to go to work because you're having panic attacks. You can't dive into an insight-specific treatment. You first need to stabilize. When one graduates from the stabilization phase, going into the insight-building phase, this is now where we can change your core personality. And this is where you can actually process the pain and do something different. So this is why I think the psychoanalytic approach is so important. But then I also like to throw in the mix the existential piece as well, because that's important. Imagine going through life and your entire life you've experienced anxiety, and all of a sudden now you've gone through maybe 3 or 4 years of therapy and you finally came out the other side where you processed that deep-rooted pain. Now you're a completely different person because you're not triggered as much anymore. 9, do you have a specific niche or a group of people you are most passionate about? Like I mentioned, I focus on the psychoanalytic approach. I typically work with individuals who are 18 years and older, typically adults, and I work with those who struggle with complex mental illness. I work with those who have bounced from therapist to therapist because their therapist has either fired them, or their therapist ghosted them, or their therapist was just rude or mean to them, or they just decided to pick up and leave because they weren't getting what they needed. This is the population I generally tend to work with, but I also have experience, like I mentioned, with those who struggle with mood disorders and anxiety disorders as well. The unconscious understanding of one's own trauma throughout their life and how this is associated with the symptoms or problem that they're presently experiencing. All of this is important to understand the person's personality. If I'm working with you, I'm trying to understand who you are as a person, what you've been through, what your experiences are, and it's not just recently, and it's not just within the last 6 years, and it's not just when you started to feel unwell, but I want to know, even right from the beginning, what was mom's pregnancy like with you? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was mom breastfeeding when you were born? Was she available, not available? Did she struggle with postpartum? All of this is important because this suggests a secure or insecure attachment. If you were able to connect with mom and you were able to build a solid relationship, mom would be there or dad would be there. When you cried, then you felt safe, you felt comforted. So you build trust, you build that secure attachment. But if you're not fed on time, if you're frustrated, if you're constantly crying and you're not getting what you need, even infants can experience trauma. And imagine this continues to develop over time. It's really important to understand these aspects. So I dive into these complexities. I try to understand you as a whole person because the more in which I can understand you, the more in which I can develop a personalized treatment plan and help you get to where you want to be. It's not going to be easy, but myself, my associates, we will be very transparent with you. When I work with people, when I'm communicating and talking to people about mental health, I'm very transparent, I'm very open, and I tell it like it is. I don't hold back. And the reason why I do that is because people deserve the information. Now, again, if the information is too overwhelming, I use my discretion as a therapist on how I'm going to deliver that message. But what I usually tend to do is I don't sugarcoat it. I call out the pink elephant in the room. Other therapists might feel uncomfortable doing that. And I do that because that's going to help you. I treat the personality because the personality is what is eroded, what is affected when trauma is present. This last question is a good question. Are you pro-medication or pro-therapy, or is there a middle ground? Absolutely, there's a middle ground. I'm not going to take either side. It's not so black and white. Some people need medication, but sometimes medication can be a crutch. Medication, great for stabilization. I fully support it. And like I mentioned, the research suggests that medication therapy can be really helpful. So it's all about what the person needs. I truly believe that it's about having an individualized treatment approach, which is going to be so vital. So it's not black and white, it's gray. We walk the gray. We always walk the gray because nothing is going to be written in stone. Everything is flexible, and this is the wonderful world that we have when it comes to choice and when it comes to having one sense of freedom. And you can make choices and do what you need to do for yourself in order to flourish. All right, so these were 10 questions, getting to know me and learning a little bit more about me. If you have any more questions, please leave comments down below and I can do a part 2 if you'd like. And this way we can get really specific. We can get down into the trenches, start peeling back the layers, whether you want to know stuff about me personally or whether you want to know more professionally. Let me know. I'm here for you.